Working Class Bowhunter podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
I think I left about 4:45.
No one honestly really cares. Steve's calling me while I'm holding, getting ready for this deer to stand up.
Glad you took this deer out. He doesn't even drive American. See, that deer's exactly what's wrong with this country, right? He doesn't even support local American-made deer-compatible vehicles.
That one arrow cost me $33,000. Just aiming too long and just moved a little bit. And I was like, oh no, it fired, crap. I knew as soon as it left, it was just a little high.
But he came right out in the field, made a scrape right in the cornfield, started grunting, walked 30 yards, made another scrape.
You're listening to the Working Class Bowhunter. That's right. This is the podcast for Billy Joe Lunchbucket, the working man, just like me and you. My name's Travis T-Bone Turner from the Bone Collector. Thank you for tuning in.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Working Class Bowhunter podcast. Obviously, Steve is not doing the intro.
We have a new intro now.
Some people are either going, thank God, or some people are going, where's Steve?
Yeah.
So
what the heck?
He's not here.
We are in Sherrard, Illinois.
Yes, Sherrard, Illinois.
Buckatorium.
1600 Buck Slayer Place for everyone that misses that. It's about hunting season, so we hope you're getting ready. And if you don't have a bow sight that picked out yet, or you don't have one in or dialed in yet, check out HHA Sports, single pin sights. I would say the best single pin site out there
on the market right now.
As far as like just for hunting and target archery, they make like the stop for 20 yards. So if you got a deer at 50 yards and he moves in, you're like, oh, panic! I need to get back to 20. You just dial that dial forward. And it's got an automatic stop for 20 yards.
You set your stop and just boom, and you're automatically at 20 yards.
We're all shooting the Optimizer Kingpins, and they are awesome. They're easy to sight in. Most people think that the single pin is a pain in the ass to get dialed in, to get you the right sight tape. You do 20 and 60, depending on which sight you have, and then you basically subtract the difference, and that gives you a sight tape number. And
subtract the two numbers, and then that's your sight tape number, and you throw that on, you're good to go.
Yep, and the nice thing about it is you can actually pull the dial off to put your sight tape on, so you get it all nice on smooth with no bubbles or crinkles.
That's also nice, too, if you have different arrows, different size arrows or broadheads or whatever, so you can have different wheels for different applications.
Right. And then we're also brought to you by Badlands Packs, and I'd have the Super Day pack. What pack do you have, Eric?
I have the Diablo and the Tree Stand pack.
Oh, yeah, you have two. You're fancy. I have two, I guess, too.
Fancy.
So they are awesome. I've been using them to hang tree stands, throw all the hooks. I throw my iPad in there.
They're top of the line. I mean, it's kind of dumb not to go with a Badlands. They're lifetime warranty.
Yeah, honestly, it could be the last pack you literally ever buy. You know, you spend the money for the quality pack and the warranty for life. Like, literally, you have that thing forever. It's guaranteed. Ross Bigger's in the studio. He has a Badland pack. The zippers are going out.
I told him, I said, hey, man, send it in. My Diablo was all tore up, and within 3 or 4 days, I had a brand-new Diablo sitting on my front porch.
Yeah, we did an episode with Badlands, and they said they had guys sending in packs with their old logo. Like, the packs were so old, guys were sending in, like,
and they're like, oh, we don't make this one anymore, but we'll send you a new one. They're like, I don't want a new one. I want that one back.
Right, just fix it. We'll do what you can and send it back, and I'm happy with it. But, so, yeah, HHA, Badlands, they both have actually pretty much the same warranty. Like, no questions asked. Like, we're going to back up the product we make.
Yep. HHAsports.com.
And BadlandsPacks.com.
Yep.
You can also find that on workingclassbowhunter.com. We don't plug our own website.
You could probably find it there, I imagine.
Yeah, you could probably find that. In the studio today, we have my father, David Geier, and
a.k.a. Papa Dave.
Papa Dave. This is the first episode you've been on, and we're nearing 100. So sorry it took so long.
Well, hello, everybody.
So my dad is the climber tree stand legend. The Geier Buck is kind of like a legend buck story in our like friends group and family group and hunting camp group. And so we want to know the story about that. We'll post some pictures of the Geier Buck, and we'll get into the details about the size and score of it. And then also sitting in the studio is Ross Bigger. And we had him on. It'd be 2 episodes ago by the time this one airs. So he came back. He just couldn't get enough, so he came back for more.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Oh, yeah, anytime.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk. Where should we start? Father?
I don't know. Let's talk about what we did today.
All right. Well,
There we go.
today, season is nearing, and everyone else should probably be doing the same stuff we're doing or have it done by now. If you have it done by now, I praise you.
Props to you, man.
Yeah, you're doing good.
So what we did is we've been doing this for the last few weekends, I guess. I was in Brazil, so that took through a 3-week gap in there. But we've been hanging stands, cameras. I'm into the point now where, like, you've been buying stands on Amazon and having them shipped to the house, and I'm like, well, okay, since you bought stands, I'll go pick up a trail camera.
Right.
And it's a never-ending cycle of just buying stands and sticks and cameras, which is a beautiful thing. So
I mean, you can't complain about that.
No, you can't. It's money well spent. Sam doesn't care that I spend all my money on tree stands and cameras either, so that's cool. And Sam's in here with no mic, just grinning at me,
Hanging out.
But what we did was, and this is something that a lot of people don't do, and I think we should talk about, is repairing your stands and straps that have been up for a number of years.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's something you don't think about. It's not something you just hang and forget it until you hear. I've heard a lot of stories of people falling through the podcast. Like, I had a strap. I was on the top stick, and I was getting ready to step into my stand, and the strap broke on my top stick of my Lone Wolf or whatever brand they use, and I fell, and Ryan Greenleaf fell and broke his back.
Yeah, I had a buddy fall a couple years ago, broke his back and pelvis, and it was a bad deal.
His back and pelvis?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's crazy.
Well, it's the thing. It's horrifying. You hear those stories, and it's always like you never think it'll happen to you.
But then you never know. That's why every time I get my stand, I check my straps, go over it, take a quick visual look and make sure there's no rips in your straps or anything.
Yeah.
And I'll even add to that even when you're climbing in at 5 in the morning, squirrels are going crazy in the fall anyway.
Right.
I've checked straps, been out there and looked at them,
Mm-hmm.
and then show up and 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're trying to get in, and then all of a sudden a squirrel had chewed on your strap, and it was halfway through.
Yep.
Mhm.
They've been tearing them up. I actually backed out of that stand, and that hunt was. We ended up walking to another tree. Got in late, but it's
Right.
still something to be looking at.
Well, that
Absolutely.
too, and Dad, the stands that we repaired, a lot of them, we went up to them, and the straps were crazy tight. Well, the tree had grown from one season to another, and one stand that we have to repair, I had one strap that was old, and I didn't take it off. I just threw another strap over it, and the old strap actually had busted.
That's why it's a good idea, too, to, at the end of the season, you can loosen your straps to a point where your tree stand's not going to fall out, but just loosen them because that tree is going to grow.
It's a good idea.
So just loosen them up a little bit so your strap's not stretching with the tree.
That's a really good idea, and we've never done that.
Well, we've got so many stands hanging, it's kind of hard to get around to each stand at
Right,
the end of the year to do that.
Right.
It is hard, but if you can dedicate a day just to make a conscious effort to go out and loosen the straps, we did that this year, and we've done it last year. The years before we didn't, but it's kind of a new thing for us to do. It helps tremendously. Now you still get the straps being weathered. They start getting stiff. I guess all the work goes into hanging that stand, so you don't want to have to replace straps every year.
It's crazy, too, how much the sun will take out of a strap. It'll dry that thing out faster than anything.
Well, that's something we were talking about today. If you have I was like, if the straps are sun faded, like the color's faded, like we might as well just replace them.
You got to think, you can buy a strap for what, $5-10?
So we bought replacement straps. Did you order them off Amazon?
Yeah, for $10 a piece.
There you go. That's totally worth it if you think about it.
Something else that we noticed today, too, is some of the safety harness straps.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to them because they get brittle just as well,
Frayed.
especially if they're rope or if they're a strap.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We went out to do that. We replaced a bunch of the Lone Wolf sticks straps and the stand straps. They're the same strap.
Yep.
And moved a stand today, and I guess everyone can probably relate to this. And we talked about this a little bit in the yard. We were shooting the new Scott release, and today my dad and I. How long did we drive back and forth along that tree line looking for a place to set a stand?
Probably a good hour.
It's okay. We knew I had a camera over there. I knew we wanted to put a stand over there, and I'm like, well, let's put one over here in this point. We can tuck one in there, shoot both sides of the field. Oh, but there's no sign in there. It was just like, there's some trees in there, but when all the leaves are gone, you're going to be basically out in the open, like, hey, everyone, look at me. And then where we wanted to hang one back tucked into the corner, there was no trees big enough. We drove back and forth, back and forth. What do you want to do? I don't know. We need to put one in here. There's nothing over here. I don't know what to do.
That's like when, you'd say, okay, I'm going to go out and hang 2 stands today. Should take me 2 hours. But then all of a sudden it's dark and you're like, well, that took all day.
Well,
it's just,
and this is kind of new property, too, so we don't know it like we do our
brand
other
new property.
Yeah.
It's not kind of. It is brand new, so.
Yeah. Our other property, we know well enough that we know exactly where we're going to hang them. This was a little different.
You could walk there in the dark and hang a tree stand, couldn't you?
Definitely.
Yeah, we could almost discuss, that tree that goes up when it splits and it's got that little weird bend in it over there? No, not that tree, but the one 2 to the left. That's the one we should put the stand in. And it's like we kind of know exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But this one, it's like, well, we got to go in and I don't know. I know trees on our property. We hunted for my whole life pretty much. This is all new. So it's...
and the vegetation's really, really thick right now.
Oh, that's
nuts.
What's terrible about this time of the year, and the bugs, and it's hotter and Sadie's out here, Hades or whatever.
It's hotter than Sadie's.
Today wasn't so bad.
No, today was it was a breezy 80 in the timber, which was pretty good. But it's tough. I hate summer just because everything's overgrown in the bugs. If it could be October year round, I'd be cool with it.
Yep.
But
you have to do this shit in the summertime.
You have to do it.
You have to get it done.
There are certain times where, there's some stands we know, okay, we're not going to sit it until late October, November. We'll go in with new straps or sticks and just do it as we go up.
Right.
Sometimes you're probably almost better off that way.
Just stay out of there completely.
Right. Well, yeah, not that now it would really mess things up too bad, but it's, I don't know. A lot of that stuff, we're like, we'll just come in. Like another lone wolf we have, we're going to go replace all the straps. We'll just go in and do it as we climb and sit it for the first time, and just, it'll be all right. But it's a lot of work, with me traveling for work. And Dad, you live, what, an hour, 2 hour and a half, 2 hours away?
Yeah, hour and a half away from the hunting property now.
Right. So it's just tough to...
Well, it's tough to get both of you together and do this at the same time.
Yeah. Right. But it's important. I mean, so if you guys are... This is making you think, oh, man, that strap probably could be replaced in my stand.
Just do it.
Just do it. They're cheap. Go to Menards and get what are they, $7 on sale right now for 4?
4 of them for $6.99. It's perfect.
But they're like bright neon orange.
They're red.
Yeah, well, we bought the camo ones because we're sellouts.
We paid a little bit more there, Eric.
Yeah. I've used red for years. I don't care.
Yeah, we did blaze orange last year on a couple of sets, but I don't know. Something to think about. Summertime, that's what's going on. Hunting season's near. Check trail cameras. How many did we check today? 4? I let my other one sit. We had one good buck. One buck that...
One good buck?
One buck that's a great buck. That'll be a shooter this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Probably 160s as a typical 10, I would say. When you think I showed you guys that picture?
Yep.
Except the one brow time's kind of screwed up on it.
Yeah, he's got like one, let me look at the picture here. He's got one brow tine that's going like 8
straight up
inches, 6 to 8 inches, and the other one's like a bunch of junk. On his right side is a bunch of junk, and the other side it's probably a 7-inch brow tine, and he's just tall, typical, good 2s and 3s, and his 1G4 in his right beam is probably pretty good, and then the other one's kind of weak, but he's a awesome buck either way. He looks fat body, so he's probably got a little bit of age on him at least. I'd say at least 4.5.
See, that's exciting to see though, especially on a new. Is that on the new property?
Yeah.
Yep. It's actually on
awesome.
The little patch of woods that picture's taken is actually like a 1 acre piece.
They love it there.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
it's pretty awesome.
You get a lot of cruising bucks this time of year.
They're
bachelored up.
Right.
I always make sure that I have my cameras out 2nd, 3rd week in July because I'm making sure they're there, making sure all of them are working, everything's working great. It gives me enough time to go out and let them run for a week and a half, 2 weeks, go out, check them, making sure that August 1st, those cameras are all prime time ready to go because I get my best pictures of velvet bucks, 3, 4, 5 deer at a time coming through from August 1st to the end of August. And August is the very best month.
You think so, huh?
For me, yeah, absolutely. As far as all the velvet bucks hanging out together, yeah, you get some awesome ones. But you can start getting pictures of deer that you hadn't seen before and really good ones, and they're all teamed up. You just got to keep in mind that those deer all disperse.
Right.
And they all of a sudden you had pictures of him all year right here, and then he disappears.
Right.
Well, that's
Come September 15th, gone. You
Velvet's
can't find
off,
him.
things
Yep.
change.
Yep.
Well, the testosterone changes.
They're
and
all
everyone-
buddy right now, but give it a few weeks and
So yeah, I wonder
They're
what will
gonna be
happen
gone
if this
anyways.
deer will continue to run through that.
Yep.
You know, I wonder if like the first, because it was like 11 a.m. So I wonder if, you know, the first week of October, if I'm going to sit in there and see him, or if it's I just won't ever see him again.
Well,
But
and a lot of times you're going to see that deer once or twice more, or maybe you'll never see him again. I guess it changes. But when prime time comes around and you're hunting and you're pulling cameras and you're getting pictures of deer that you've never seen before,
oh yeah,
that's because those deer were on somebody else's ground and
And they're
they were
coming.
getting pictures of them, and then they disappeared on them. I mean,
Right.
these deer move
right,
as far as their velvet patterns
Right.
versus out of velvet and establishing their
for sure.
zone.
Well, that's another thing too. Is I was talking to our buddy Trevor Schmidt, and he said all my neighbors, everyone I know, haven't really got any good pictures of bucks in velvet.
and I haven't either really.
It's
I got
weird.
a handful, and that's about it.
Well, and then that goes to show, because once the velvet comes off, that doesn't mean the deer aren't there, or they could
Right.
be over here on the neighbors,
Yep.
but you're going to have good deer eventually move through there. I mean, we're fortunate that we live in Illinois. Iowa has smaller bucks, Eric. You can attest to that.
Yeah,
but
I'll test to that. I'm rolling my eyes right now, by the way.
But it's just, you know, Iowa's kind of like Maryland when it comes to deer hunting, you know? There's just not a lot there. But it's
I'm leaving. I'm done with this podcast.
Illinois is just a better state. Everything but our politics is better than everywhere else in the
And,
country.
and economy.
Yeah. But
I ain't going there tonight.
that's the encouraging thing, you know. It sucks not to see those pictures of the big deer in the summer. You're like, man, where are they? What the heck? But
But they're out doing their own thing, checking shit out. You know what I mean?
right, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, it's exciting when you get one like that on your camera.
Right. It gives you hope.
And most of the time, you know, you're checking through pictures, you're going so fast, and you're like, ah! And you gotta go back like 10 pictures because you're flipping through them so fast.
Well, every time we checked our cameras today, Dad, it was like, what do you got on there? Well, little buck here. Oh, it's a decent buck. That's a decent buck. And I ran out there. It was like through a bean field. Go in and check it, and I'm like, 200 incher. Oh! No way, it's not even close to 200 inches, but I'm so used to seeing little guys. I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm like, oh, wow, a nice one, finally.
And I don't know what it is about this time of year that the big boys start showing up again, but they run such a tight pattern
Right.
through the hot months of the year.
It's crazy.
Which it's hot, but it's you know what I mean. It's
Right.
for some reason year after year they start showing up now.
Right.
And
It's
you'll get a big buck that you've not seen, and you've had that camera out all summer long.
Yep.
And for me, I've gotten burnt out on looking at fawns and does and coons and turkeys and
Right.
squirrels and everything.
Especially
So-
raccoons, man.
Right?
Oh, you spend so much time going through those cards, and like we talked last week about, or well, it's been a while since we talked, but whenever we talked about how I run a lot of cameras, I've got a lot of money invested in cameras.
22?
I run so many of them because I can tell you, after running that many cameras for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it's been, I have my almost guaranteed hot spots this time of year. I've got 4 cameras out of 22 or 5 cameras out of 22 that I can almost guarantee there's going to be a big one this time of year. And then they all switch. And now I've got those other spots are hot spots during the rut or October. Or and by running that many cameras, it allows me to see what their patterns
You can
are, where
pattern
they're
them.
moving,
Absolutely.
what they're doing,
Absolutely.
food source, and everything. So
That's a good, yeah. That's cool, because would you know that if you didn't have that many cameras?
right, that's the thing.
You know?
So
I'm buying more. I think we're up to 8. And I think Bill Winky, I think he runs the Midwest Whitetail episode I had watched. I was wondering how many cameras does Bill Winky run? He said he has 11. That's all he runs.
really,
And maybe he runs more now. I don't know, but like, you don't know, what do the juries run? How many cameras are they running? How many, you know, like these?
Then you have to take the ratio of per acres and everything
I was
else.
going to say,
you know?
Right.
you got to look at what size of piece.
Right.
they're running.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Deer, you know, James Curl. I watched a thing on North American Whitetail, and they were teamed up with Aaron Milliken, and we know Aaron Milliken from Whitetail Properties, and he said he runs. You only need, not Aaron said this, Dr. Deere said this. 1 camera per 80 acres is what he said to get an accurate deer survey. He said it depends on your property. You could do 1 camera per 50.
See, that just sounds insane to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a lot, really.
No. I don't think that's enough.
I think you would have more cameras for that 80 acres.
Well, it depends on your food sources, water sources, bedding areas, and things like that.
Right.
For sure.
Definitely. And
I think that's why now you're starting to see bigger bucks, because the beans, they're getting bigger. They're starting to eat the beans. The corn's just getting to where they're going to start eating the corn.
That's a good point.
To where you weren't seeing them before, now you're starting to see them because everything's getting to where they're starting to hit
They
the
need
fields.
that protein
Right.
source.
Absolutely.
Right. And you got to think, too, I mean, cameras are out now, and you're seeing that you're going to see that transition from velvet to not velvet. But then you guys also think, how many deer are in the corn? You know, they
Right.
travel through the corn more than anything.
It makes you wonder how many deer bed down in the corn all day.
Well, we all know a lot of them because we used to hunt with a guy that had a helicopter,
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
and he would see them in the corn all the time, that they were just in their bedding.
That's true. Like that down where the corn's down and stuff like that. Well, let's use that to segue into kind of the Geier Buck. But yeah, we hunted with a guy in hunting camp, had a helicopter, and he would fly in, and he would just be like, "Man, you know, I saw like I don't know how many dead bucks he found with that helicopter. Like just we had one year EHD or one of those diseases hit this property that we hunted. He's flying over a lake and saw 2 deer locked together in the middle of the lake that were dead.
And you would never see that from land, though. You would never.
No, and then he found another pair, but he actually went down there and you could smell the rotting meat.
Right.
Yeah, a year later, the next year. So he has 2 mounted sets of locked bucks.
And they're nice deer.
Yeah,
they're not small deer.
No, the first one he found in the lake, one was like a 170-10, and the other one was like a 145, 150-inch 10, just locked together.
Mm-hmm.
The way didn't they break it down where the lake was between, like on this bank of this ridge? They think the deer were locked in,
rolled down the ridge or something.
Yeah, one pulled the other one down the ridge, and they went into the lake and got kicked out into the lake. And it was actually they were frozen in the ice. And they went in there and broke them out of the
that's
ice.
why you could smell that a year later, the next spring.
Well, no, that was the one he saw from the helicopter. The one the year later was like November when he found them. So they must have been dead for a week, maybe. So they were ripe. Yeah,
they were fresh.
These other ones were frozen in the lake.
Yeah, and it was off season, I believe, wasn't it?
It was either off season or really late season.
Late season,
like January, like early January, late December. But let's talk about the Geier Buck, Dad, because this deer is gone down as like a legend in like I said, in our group. I guess we'll just call it that, our circle of friends and hunting camp, and basically,
if your last name is in a buck, you know it's gonna be something special.
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's called the Geier Buck, you know it's something decent.
Well, this deer, let's explain the deer. Let's talk about the deer as itself, and then we'll get into the story, because that'll actually because people who don't know what the deer looks like, they'll actually kind of get a picture of it. So it's a mainframe 8-pointer that I think has 15 scoreable points.
Yep, 15 scoreable.
15 scoreable points, 20, I'm trying to remember. I wish we had the score sheet. We're so unprepared. 26.
I thought it was 28-inch
greatest spread. I can't remember what it is inside. It's like 24 inside. Maybe it's a little bigger.
It's bigger than that.
It's insane. The beams are 25 and 26-inch long. I think, 24 and 25. No, they're bigger than 24. Man, we're rough at this.
Let's just say this thing is gnarly.
It's insane.
It's gnarly.
Its beams are
gnarly.
huge. It's got 13-inch G2s, 2 drop time kickers off the left G2. It's just got everything. Split brows, big, wide, gapped out 8. If it was a mainframe 10, it'd be well over 200 net. It netted 183 and an 1/8, grossed 191 and 3/8 as an 8-pointer.
And pictures do not do this thing justice. Like, I've seen pictures of it for years and never seen it. And then when we came down to hang those deer, I'm like, goo.
Yeah, we
that
put it
thing
on
is
the
a
wall.
monster.
It's insane. So this is a story. Go ahead and just tell the story.
Well, I mean, it could be kind of a long story.
Just get into it.
We had
got
this
time.
property that we hunted, and there were several of us that hunted it. I say several, like maybe 6. And some of us stayed in one place, some of us stayed in another place. We had 2 places that we could kind of camp. It was one had a cabin, one was another just another place. But we wouldn't always communicate exactly where everybody was going to go. So my son and I decided that we were going to start hunting the south side of this property, which was 1,000 acres that nobody was really touching, and it was kind of nobody really knew a whole lot about it at the time. So we started hunting it, and I was like a big climber, tree stand guy back then. I liked to move around. I liked to go where people usually didn't go, kind of scout areas and things like that. Look for trees when I was on my way, for different wind directions and things like that. And I had already picked out this tree kind of walking back to my other locations over a period of time. And we got up one morning, and it was a strong south wind. And people that all had the fixed stands are like, well, where are we going to sit?
Because south wind is weird for November.
Yeah. It's like we don't really have good south wind stands. Well, I knew where this tree that I'd spotted, so I actually backpacked my climber in that morning. And I was real quiet, went in there real quiet, took my time, strapped in, got up in the tree. And it was just right before daylight. I could kind of hear this like rustling in the woods. And I would give my grunt call, just a couple grunts every now and then. And I'd wait 15, 20 minutes, and I'd do it again, and I could still hear a little bit of rustling and things like that. Well, it was probably around 8:30, and you kind of get antsy. You haven't really seen a lot going on. And of course, and this kind of, I had a Gatorade bottle I always carried, because if you got to pee, you got to have something to pee in.
If you got to go, you got to go, man.
So, I had to go. It was 8:30 in the morning. I already drank some coffee in the morning, and so I peed in my Gatorade bottle, and I just kind of set it down and put the cap on and looked over, and here come this deer out of this ravine, probably about a 15-yard shot. I had just enough time to pick up my bow, make the shot. I didn't have enough time to get nervous. It wasn't like I was sitting there watching this deer come in for
That's a good thing.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
It was just that fast. I made a great shot on it. It probably went 20 yards over on this ridge. I kind of watched it wobble and kind of fell down this ravine. Couldn't see it anymore.
So when you did that, I was at school. I was in 8th grade at the time. So it was like 04.
Yep.
I'm in 8th grade, an hour away. I was a little tight. And so I wasn't with you, but I was like, it was like after the week that I'm always trying to come down there.
It was actually the day before shotgun season was going to start.
Right, okay.
And I was coming home to get you that night.
Okay, yeah, okay. So you're down there with our buddy Dave Crean at the time, and Jim Burns, our other really good hunting buddy, was down there with you, too, at the same time, wasn't he?
Right.
And this was a time where, like, texting wasn't big.
No, and we were using the little walkie-talkies.
Yeah, turn your walkie-talkie on this time. We'll check in with you.
Yeah, it was crazy. Texting was, I don't even know if texting was around back then.
I don't remember it. I mean,
Saw the old flip phones and a pager.
Well, yeah, you didn't get reception down there either, so it's
Right.
not like you could just call somebody. So we would like try to have these walkie-talkies, and at certain times we kind of knew that we'll kind of communicate. But yeah, I mean, I ended up getting down out of the tree, and of course, after I shot him, I wasn't nervous.
so did you know how deer this big was, though, when you shot it?
I had never seen this deer.
I think I saw him a week before chasing the doe, but I don't know if it was actually.
And we thought we had a pretty good handle because, of course, we didn't have a lot of trail cameras back then. And
this is when they still had the
35 millimeter.
Yep. You
Which
still
was-
have one laying around?
I have the same
somewhere.
one, the only one we had. Never took pictures.
Hey, you'd take it in to Jewel.
The 1 hour development.
Wait
and
an
get
hour.
it developed, and there would be like nothing.
I can't even wait 10 minutes to get back to my truck to look at them.
So okay, so you shoot this deer, you see it fall. on the ridge.
Right. And it actually fell into this valley we used to call the Valley of Death, or I did, because it was basically 80 feet straight down.
Yeah, like you could fall and die into it.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it was
it
insane.
was bad. Well, it fell down at least 12 feet, so instead of trying to drag it up, because I think just before it was field dress, it was probably a 300-pound body.
I would say easy.
So,
easy.
I drug it down the hill, gutted it. I went back and got a hold of my buddy and told him kind of where I was. He knew the property because he'd been out there with us enough times, and had him drive his quad. It was kind of a rough quad ride getting down in there, but it all kind of ran into where you could actually drive down there in one spot. And I stood in front of the deer when he pulled up, and then I just kind of sidestepped when he pulled down there. He couldn't believe it.
It's insane. Well, the deer is so gapped out and wide. It's not like a tight rack, normal size buck. Like, the distance from the G2 to the G3 is like there's a long length of beam in between that. So the beam, it just looks huge and massive. It looks like a crossbreed between a whitetail and a muley. Like a big muley and a whitetail. Yeah. That's the best way, and it's real dark chocolate rack. So what do you say?
Holy shit.
What would anyone...
So what did you do? You guys, you loaded it up, and then you guys put it on the 4-wheeler and just drove it back to where everyone was staying. And I wanted to, like, Jim Burns.
Well, Jim was on the north side hunting.
Right.
So we came back, and we had this place where we stayed. It was called the Lab.
It was an old soils testing lab.
Right. So we were there, and we were taking some pictures, and Jim came up, and I did the same thing. I kind of stood in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got up there, I kind of moved, and he couldn't believe it. And, Jim's been out there probably longer than anybody.
Oh, yeah. Jim's been hunting out at that property since, like, late 90s.
And he's seen
98,
some nice deer
I think, was
there.
his first year out there. Yeah, he shot a 170-inch buck out there. Real nice deer.
Yeah, and he's seen some 200-plus inch deer out there. Just never had an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So did anyone else see this deer prior to this?
I believe I saw it a week before. I was with my bow, a little tyke, and it was out in the middle of a field chasing a doe.
Well, Curt used to sit in a stand that I hung for him and film.
Yeah,
and we would talk to the other guys about some of the deer that we were seeing, and they're like, yeah, whatever. And then we'd play back the film for them.
Yeah, it's right here.
And
right.
they couldn't believe it. They're like, holy cow, these guys are seeing some big deer. Well, after I shot that buck, we were the only ones hunting on that one south side property, which I said, it was 1,000 acres. It was a huge property.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like after that, everybody kind of went over and started hunting that area.
Right. And then we were rubbing elbows. It was always good fun. But
we had a blast down there. I tell you what, just good camaraderie. You can't beat hunt camp like that.
Yeah, we had a unique group of guys in hunting camp every night. It was a blast. I missed I'd always take 1 week off from everything. We always would every year. First or second week in November, bow hunt all week, just cut up with the boys all week, eat good food. Jim Burns would always bring down like this, just the biggest cooler you've ever seen, as long as our studio table, just packed with goodies. And we're just like...
That's the best thing about deer camp is...
the camaraderie.
Well, hunting and the food.
Right. Well, it's...
the food...
Shooting deer is a bonus to it all. It really is. It just makes you...
It makes a story.
Right. Well, I remember so I'm at school. It's November. All I want to do, I'm in 8th grade. All I want to be doing is bow hunting. Mom comes in on lunch at school. I'm pretty sure your dad just shot a 15-pointer, and I'm like freaking out. You know what I mean? And you pick me up from school with the thing in the back of the truck. Everyone else probably that doesn't hunt is probably like rednecks. Like, what the hell? Stay away from Curtis Geier and his father.
And you got a dead deer hanging over the side of the truck.
Right. I hop in the back. I'm like, woo! We're like celebrating and stuff. It's nuts. We took that thing to the locker in Geneseo, Illinois. Mm-hmm. Remember the didn't you have like a 90-year-old dude come up and shake your hand like, congratulations? Like,
there was people staring me down because it was sticking out of the back of the truck, even laying down. It was probably nuts. 6, 7, 8 inches, right. If not more. But yeah, the guy from the locker actually took a picture of himself with the deer and had it hanging on his wall.
Well, we went to pick up the cape like a few days later, and we walk in, and he had it printed on the wall, right?
Said it was the biggest deer he'd ever seen.
The deer's unbelievable. It really is.
It's just a really unique big deer.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And then immediately, the story. Oh, you told the piss bottle story about you peeing in your Gatorade bottle.
Yep.
And immediately it was, it's got to be the Geier piss. It's got to be the Geier piss.
It just got that scent to it.
Right. So, I don't know. It just, that, and then you killed like 160-inch 10 the year after, and people were just like, what the hell, man? Might as well bottle that stuff up and sell it like it's
I had,
$2.69.
I don't know, probably 8 years in a row there that I shot a pretty nice buck.
You're on a streak. You're on a winning streak. I went on a slump there. We kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
But
You guys trade off every 8 years or what?
hopefully not every 8 years.
Not that long.
We can do every other.
I'm due. I didn't shoot a buck last year. I had several small ones come in. I had one buck that I kept seeing, but he wouldn't give me, he was 70 yards, 80 yards out all the time.
It's just how it happens sometimes. It just doesn't. Sometimes the stars don't align, and you don't get a shot or a chance at one.
Well, that's like saying, he says 1,000 acres, and he was one guy in there. That's a perfect example of at the right place at the right time.
Right. Well, a lot of it is, too. It's
scouting. It's knowing the property. It's
doing your homework.
Knowing your winds.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of it is, too, you said, with a climber. That makes a big difference. It wasn't a ladder stand that was in there, and guys walked into that ladder stand all the time and hunted it. Oh, the wind might be all right. Hopefully, I'll chance it. You can't do that stuff.
No, and you want to know something? There's something to that. And I'm definitely going to start hunting a climber again, because I had more luck with that climber going into places, and maybe the first or second time I'd been in there and actually shooting a big deer.
Right.
Rather than going to a fixed stand that was there all the time.
Right. No, you are the climber king. I will say that. And then what's funny about it is, it's like didn't you get that climber on sale at Walmart for like $40?
Yeah, it was like just after season, and it was.
It's like a river's edge.
It was. It was a great climber, though.
You wore that thing out. I wonder if you could get replacement like the straps and all. Do
you still have it?
I actually left it hanging on a tree in Wisconsin.
You did?
Yes. But I know Ray, the guy that we used to hunt with, has a brand new one.
Just like it.
That I'm trying to talk him into selling me.
That is your good luck charm for 2016. You have to get that stand.
I didn't know you left it in Wisconsin up there.
Yeah, I left it up there on a tree.
No, you gotta go get it.
The straps were worn out on it. I literally taped them up.
It was bad, yeah.
I hunted that thing for 7-8 years.
We can fix that. No big deal. You better take a trip to Wisconsin this next weekend.
Yeah, that was a good stand.
I remember all the paint was worn off it and everything was starting to get shiny, and then you had to put that Real Tree camo duct tape on it to cover all the shiny parts. It was just worn through. It was probably a good thing that you retired it, but
and it takes a lot of work with a climber. You go in the morning in the dark, and it can be relatively warm out.
Right.
And by the time you get in your stand and you're up in the tree and you screw in your bow hook,
right,
you're sweating.
Well, the thing now, too, though, is they've made it to where, like, the hang-on with the new sticks and all that, it's pretty easy to move like a Lone Wolf or whatever brand you use.
Well, true. Good example, I had the climber and I wanted you to be mobile. We ended up buying that telescopic stand.
Yeah, who made the Ameristep?
I think it was an Ameristep.
Or no, was it a... no, not Ameristep.
Was it like a ladder stand?
What's the other company that has the Target as their logo? API? Is it an API?
I think it might have been an API.
It's a telescoping stand, so it shoots up like the ladder folds inside itself. Mm-hmm. It's not very mobile.
Kind of like the Little Giant.
Well, back in the day,
yeah, it's like the Little Giant ladder.
back in the day, that was about as mobile as you could get.
It was actually, it was that or a climber.
Yeah.
But the sticks, make it where you have 3 or 4 sections of a stick, and if you're sitting here and the deer are 100 yards over there, you can pull it down, move over, shoop, 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 throw it up.
Yep. Right. Sure, back in the day, it was you probably added 20 pounds to all that gear and everything with stands and sticks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not as mobile anymore.
Steve's in the studio now. He just walked in.
This is the greatest podcast I've ever heard since I'm not on it. They've actually got like a Texas, little Texas 12-footer. What does Trevor call them?
The Texas tripod.
The Texas tripod. I saw one that had wheels.
Yeah, who made that?
I don't know, but you can.
Oh
move
no,
it
it's
around.
Hawk. Hawk makes it.
Is it Hawk? Yeah, that's where I saw it.
So it's like a 2-wheel cart where you just lift up one side and move it around, or what?
That cracks me up, and I don't know. It's like 8 foot tall. It looks like it just will never work unless I've had people. When the guys we hunted with, Jeff Powles, knows his stuff when it comes. He swears.
Good hunter.
I remember when I was young, and maybe he was just, just giving me shit or something else. I doubt it though, but he said that if you could sit on the top of a ladder in standing corn and kill a deer, he said deer do not care about anything when they're in standing corn. Probably because they never ever feel threatened when they're in that tall stuff.
Absolutely not. I don't think they would.
They're probably not looking up in the corn.
Why would they?
Yeah, it's true.
They're surrounded by everything. They don't feel threatened if they don't hear anything.
Yeah, the thing is, maybe you roll one of those out in the middle of if you can find where like the corn's down in a certain area and set up on it, and
well, you got a short window to use that stand.
Right? Yeah. You gotta talk to your farmer. Hey, man, you mind leaving up this whole field? It's cool, man. It's cool. Just leave it up.
Yeah.
I've got a question or a topic, I guess. Are there bigger deer nowadays than there was 20 years ago?
Ooh.
Or are there more hunters in the woods and big deer are getting killed that you're starting to see them?
See, that could go both ways, I think. That's a great, tricky question.
That's deep.
Well,
That is
20
deep.
years ago, I really wasn't a big deer hunter. I was mostly small game. There weren't as many deer around, but people were shooting some big bucks in certain areas. I think now you got more deer management going on.
Yep.
So I think you're seeing more deer on properties that people are managing.
That's the beautiful thing probably of like hunting shows, because hunting shows have made the general public more educated and aware, like, man, these guys are creating these big deer because they're putting in food plots, they're being selective. I think that has a big role, and now everyone's on a pro staff. All of a sudden. So that makes it for like everyone is like trying to kill bigger deer. But you also see the James Jordan buck that was shot in like what, the 50s, the 40s or something.
Right.
And you see the what is it, the Milo Hansen buck from Saskatchewan was shot in like 1990. It's 26 years ago. And that's the record typical 212 typical is insane. But that could just be a fluke. I mean, maybe if you averaged it out, like, now is there more 150-inch bucks across the board than there was 20 years ago?
Probably.
I think possibly.
I'd say probably.
Population-wise, there's more deer. And
Right.
And I think if you've got your neighbors doing deer management
Right.
and their neighbors doing deer management, you're going to see bigger deer. Maybe not the biggest, but I think there's bigger deer being shot all the time.
Right. Well, it takes super freak genetics and rare cases of the alignment of super freak genetics and the correct age to create a 212-inch typical deer. Just because you get a buck from Illinois that has prime genetics and you get him to where he can be, we'll just say grow him up his whole life. He never gets hunted. He lives to be 12 or whatever, something insane. At his peak growth, he might not break 135. It just depends on that deer's genetics,
Absolutely.
Yep.
That deer, will probably get big. 150, I think, is a great buck across the board at no matter what. I'll shoot 150 every year if I could.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't pass one.
some people do. It depends, though. If you have a 3-year-old 150 and your neighbors are on the same management plan and your property's good and you have a better chance of seeing that buck next year, you can turn into like a 170 in a couple of years. And that's
let him
different.
go.
That's different.
It's
Well,
totally-
Jim, our buddy Jim, he passes up on 150 deer all the time.
All the time.
Because he's got so many nice deer hanging on the wall that he's like, well, if I'm not going to mount it, if it's not bigger than what I got hanging on the wall.
I'll be selective.
Yeah.
And
But we're big meat eaters. We eat a lot of does. We kill a lot of does every year.
Right.
Where he wasn't really into the meat like as much as we were.
Yeah. Well, he didn't depend on the meat as we really enjoy it and depend on it.
Well, doe management is another good thing too.
And maybe that is too, like, you know, back in the day, 20 years ago, people were just killing bucks and not as many does. You know, just going for the, I don't know, maybe not, could be way
did
off.
they have the, I wasn't hunting 20 years ago, obviously, but did they have, like, the doe tags and the antlerless tags and everything?
I don't doubt the late season antlerless. I doubt that.
Yeah, it was a different ball game.
You know, we could get.
That's what I mean. I think it's more manageable by the DNR now too.
Well, that too. Conservation's just evolved to. It's more fine tuned, I think, now versus what it was then.
Which I think it has to be because of there's so many hunters hitting the woods.
For sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
There's a boatload.
You can't have a free for all.
And it's cutthroat as far as property and hunting rights to a place, because you got a ton of guys trying to hit that one spot. So
well, everyone's on a pro staff. We got to remember. I'm just joking when I say that, but it's just like everybody's.
It's an inside joke here.
Yeah, I mean everyone knows, the listeners know,
yeah.
but it's a good fun. But no, it's a good topic to bring up. But.
You know, though, I have an uncle that started hunting back in the early '60s, deer hunting.
He was around. He's been around since Illinois deer season started,
Yeah.
probably. You know, honestly, because it's in there somewhere, right? 60s, 70s.
You know, and he said what?
Steve, Google that, will you? When Illinois deer season started?
It was 6 years he went without shooting a deer because the population just wasn't up.
Or even seeing one, right?
Yeah, and I mean he shot over 200 and some deer by
Yeah,
now.
we were just talking about this before the podcast.
Yep.
We need to get him on episode.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But the population wasn't like it is now, not at least around this area. So
You know,
it's a little bit different. You know, now they say a good population for deer, average square mile, is like 35 deer per square mile.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah, what you break that down, I mean, a square mile is what, 680 acres?
I have no idea.
Something like
That's
that.
beyond me.
But
Too much math for me right now.
certain areas are different. Depends on
Right.
deer management, food, bedding areas, water.
How much actually, livable cover there is. The other thing is, maybe that could be a whole episode, is like the retro deer hunting, like what the seasons have evolved from then to now, and the deer quality from then to now. How many deer got killed then in the beginning of the Illinois deer season to now?
Well, like what Dave said is a good point, where he said, you know, back in the day you were a big small game hunter.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, my old man always told me, he's like, we never did much deer hunting because there wasn't that many deer around. It was more pheasants, bird hunting, rabbits,
quail.
yeah, everything. But
Yeah.
but you look at it now, and there's so many deer around, and not as many pheasants or quail or any of that.
There's not a lot of pheasants in our area.
No, and it used to be overpopulated by pheasants, big time.
So what it looks like, it says, you know, by 1950, you know, white-tailed deer were only able to inhabit 68 Illinois counties, and 33 counties of that were open for hunting in 1957. But by 1976, every county except for the 4 counties in Chicago, now Cook, DuPage, Cannon Lake, were open to firearm season. So within 2004, western portion of Kane County was open. So basically, throughout Illinois since 1976, and yeah, we got that many deer now. So.
Wow. Well,
Yep, big change. And a lot of, you know, it's all about hunting. It's the hunters that is the reason why we have such good hunting now.
it is. It's a conservation effort.
It's conservation, is
And that's the
what it
thing,
is.
like, you know, the last episode we brought up, like, PETA and, like, anti-hunters. That's just the shit they'll never get. And you can show them the numbers. You can show them the stats. You can show them, like, this is the money hunters' dollars go to help these animals. Like, what are you doing? What money are you putting towards it? You're just bitching about it on Facebook and calling us bad people when you don't even know what we do for these animals or anything that goes into it. You know, they just ignore the numbers, they ignore the stats, and everything we put in front of them. It's just, it doesn't exist because they don't want to see it.
Right.
Everything they do is
could you imagine these states, though, if we did not hunt a single animal?
it'd be man, that would be crazy.
Could you imagine that, though? Like, if there wasn't a single hunter in any state in the
Well,
U.S.?
the thing too, though, if there wasn't like a conservation effort, one, there'd be poachers just shooting things for fun because there would be no education on what needs to be done. And I think there'd be so many animals, disease would just run through it.
Yeah.
Well, one, they run out of food. Because what did we say? They need, the other episode we talked about this, they need like 2,200 pounds of forage per deer. That's what a deer eats per year. So,
Well, they're eating all the time.
Basically, that's leaves and grain. And imagine, take 2,200 pounds or 2,000 pounds and put it out. And then, so you see that 2,000 pounds of forage or food or grain, whatever they're eating. And then take that times how many deer there are in a square mile. And how many did you say were in a square mile?
Well, that's just
a rough
average. If you've got good property.
Google that, Steve.
It's 35.
35 a square mile is what they say?
Yeah. But, where we used to hunt, we know there was a lot more than that.
I would definitely say there's so many does that the buck, you just see does. And so say if you did, we'll round it to 2,000. So it's 70,000 pounds per square mile for deer.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And that would be crazy if you didn't have any...
Corn is what saves them there. But
if you didn't have anyone harvesting these animals.
Well, yeah, they'd be starving and
absolutely
suffering and dying of starvation.
Random disease. Well, EHD hits too, and that's just Mother Nature's way of saying, "Yo, I don't know. We got to control some stuff here." But that's the same way with like disease with us. But
then it's going back to the gene pool too. I mean, you can only crossbreed so many times. You know what I'm saying? Before they start getting all deformed and all that stuff.
Right. It's like barn cats.
Right, yeah.
And I think, thank goodness for the farmer. We are in the corn belt.
Right.
And if they didn't have the grains to eat, then
they wouldn't
if they just had acorns, we'd be very similar to a whole lot of other areas of
Eastern
the
states.
Yep.
And
same deal. So, we can grow a big deer in this Midwest region.
Right.
Because there's a lot of grain.
Right.
So
the thing is, too, imagine if we didn't have all this grain.
The nutrients wouldn't be there. I mean, they just wouldn't get it.
Well, imagine how hard our winters would be on Midwestern deer. Like even you get into like Wisconsin and northern Illinois, where we have this grain. It really puts a lot of weight and health into these animals, and you take all that away, and imagine putting them through sometimes with the wind chill. It's like -20. In February, late January. That is got to be brutal on these animals, man.
Well, I mean, just looking at deer in the wintertime here, they look healthy.
Yeah, I mean, they're fat. Like, Dad, you were saying
they're
your deer
plump.
is probably 300-pound deer on the hoof, with, full live weight and full rut, put on some weight. And it just doesn't happen in, states where there's less grain, eastern states, southern states. And it's just, I don't know. It's nuts. Thank God for the grain, because it's making healthy animals. Hell, that's why our raccoons are like freaking small dogs sometimes. But and that's why we get 1,000 trail cam pictures of raccoons every time we check.
Yep.
But it's the son of a gun.
Another creature.
But no, it's crazy. And Dad, everyone is kissing your feet because not a lot of people get to shoot a net 183-inch tip mainframe 8-pointer. It's nuts. That's the record for that property too, by the way.
Yeah,
still
it
stands.
is. As far as we know.
As far as we know.
Since you guys been hunting then.
Well,
Or the first guy
it
or
was
whoever.
actually sold
last year.
Well, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the way I understand it is that property is under crazy surveillance. Like, these guys have trail cameras on the county road that divided that property, and they're all cell phone cameras, and they know, like, if you drive up and down that road too many times, someone's getting a phone call because they're just on it all the time. Every camera they have is a cellular. It's just nuts. But it's, I guess it's crazy. But the way I understand is they're not shooting anything under, like, 160. They're like, we're 200-inch deer only. Is the way they're trying to make that property, and
it'll take a few years, but
you can do it.
It can take forever,
but,
though.
You know something? When we were
Not
out
really.
there, nobody.
Not
was
every deer is
shooting.
guaranteed to make 200 inches.
No, they're not.
No,
but-
you just weed them out.
Hey, they can call me. I'll come shoot all their 170s. For
Hell
them.
yeah!
Any day of the week.
Yeah, we just took a couple cool bucks. Yeah, they were net like 173. It's cool though. We only take the Cole, Boone, and Crockett's off the property.
But that property made them.
It did. It definitely did. But it's all good things. What do they say? Every good thing's got to come to an end.
Yeah, we kind of knew it was going to happen eventually.
Yes, sir. So Eric's out going to wet his diaper. We're all in here. I appreciate you telling your story, Dad. It took almost 100 episodes to have you on. So thank you for being my dad and killing big deer and teaching me everything you got to learn.
Then that's kind of funny. I taught you when you were younger. Now you're kind of teaching me.
It's a beautiful cycle.
It's just like I was telling Sam today. I was like, yeah, it used to be I was the guy always up in the tree hanging the stand, and Curt was always hanging me stuff. And now he's like, Dad, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Well, Dad, you're not getting any younger. So
I know.
But I don't know. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to season. And hopefully this episode made you think, oh, shit, I got to hang some stands, move that camera around, maybe change those straps out.
Yeah, be safe.
Yes, definitely be safe. It's not worth it because a lot of you guys have kids at home, and they want to see you home every afternoon after the hunt. So wear your safety stuff. Be conscious of what you're doing. And definitely don't make a stand difficult to get into. That's one thing we're done doing.
Yep.
Just make them easy to step right in. You got to get home, see your family. And you got to be around to kill more big deer. So that's always a plus.
Yep.
But thanks for listening to this episode, guys. And you know what to do. Go shoot your bow. Later.